Galactic soldier slapped the U.S. Marine in front of everyone. He crushed his skull in 3 seconds. Ships of all shapes and sizes hovered in formation around it, their hulls glinting under artificial lights. Soldiers from dozens of different worlds stood at attention along the edges of the platform. Some were tall, some short. Some had skin that shimmered like metal, and others had scales or extra limbs. Among them, humans were easy to spot. They looked ordinary compared to the alien warriors, wearing their standard combat uniforms with patches of their nations, weapons slung at their sides. But they carried something else too, a calm confidence that seemed almost quiet, like a deep river moving beneath a still surface. Luke Harper walked at the edge of the human line, his boots clicking against the metal surface. He had seen a lot in his life: wars, skirmishes, and battles that left friends behind, but nothing had prepared him for the sight of so many alien soldiers gathered in one place. Some of them glared at him openly, sizing him up like he was an insect. Others whispered among themselves, pointing and muttering words he could not understand. Luke ignored them. His eyes scanned the crowd, noting the positions of officers and sentries. He did not need their approval. He only needed to be ready. A few meters ahead, a massive figure stepped forward. Vorak was taller than any human Luke had ever met, his shoulders broad, his arms like tree trunks, and his face marked with jagged scars. His skin was dark with a strange metallic sheen, and his eyes glowed faintly red. He moved with a slow, deliberate confidence, as if the platform itself belonged to him. He stopped a few feet away from Luke and tilted his head, a grin forming on his face that was both cruel and arrogant. "You are the human soldier?" Vorak asked, his voice deep and rough, echoing slightly in the open platform. He didn't wait for an answer. He stepped closer, invading Luke's space with a predator's grace. "The one who thinks he can fight like us." Luke said nothing. He didn't need to. His hand rested lightly on the strap of his rifle, but it was not the weapon that made other soldiers nervous. It was the way he stood. His body relaxed, but every movement suggested power restrained. Even the wind from the nearby stars seemed to pause around him, as if sensing that something in him was dangerous. Vorak's grin widened. "I have seen humans before. Weak, slow, easy to break." He raised one massive hand and, without warning, slapped Luke across the face. The sound echoed across the platform like a gunshot. Luke's head jolted slightly from the impact, but his body did not move forward or backward. He caught the corner of the platform with his other hand and stayed perfectly balanced. The crowd gasped. Alien soldiers stepped back in surprise, murmuring among themselves. A few humans tensed, thinking that the situation might escalate. Some aliens whispered to each other, shaking their heads, confident that the human would fall or react angrily. Luke slowly lifted his head and looked directly at Vorak. His eyes were steady, unflinching, and cold. There was no fear. There was no anger. There was only calculation. Every muscle in his body seemed to wait, ready to strike at the perfect moment. Vorak's grin faltered slightly, a flicker of doubt passing across his face. "You think a slap can intimidate me?" Luke asked softly. His voice carried easily across the platform, clear and calm. "You will learn quickly that humans are not what you expect." The words seemed to hang in the air, charged with a quiet menace that made even some alien soldiers shift uneasily. Vorak's hand twitched, ready to strike again, but something in Luke's stance made him pause. He had faced strong warriors before, but there was a difference with this human. There was a sense that any move against him could end badly. "Calm yourself, little human," Vorak said, trying to regain control of the moment. "I will not strike you again, yet. You will be humiliated in front of all of us. That I promise." Luke did not answer. He simply adjusted his position, shifting his weight slightly, his eyes never leaving Vorak. Around them, the platform was tense. Soldiers from other worlds were whispering rapidly, their curiosity mixing with fear. Some were impressed by Luke's composure, Others were confused. How could such an ordinary-looking human seem so powerful, so controlled? Vorak made a sudden movement, circling Luke like a predator testing its prey. He stopped behind him for a moment, then in front again, trying to provoke a reaction. Your race has no honor, no strength. You hide behind technology and numbers, but when it comes to true power, you are nothing. Luke finally spoke again, his voice calm, but each word carried weight. Strength is not always measured by size or technology. Sometimes it is measured by resolve, by speed, and by knowing your own limits. The alien's expression changed. He did not expect a human to respond in such a way. Most humans he had met either begged, panicked, or showed anger. Luke showed none of these. There was only focus, a sharp clarity that made Vorak hesitate. "You will learn soon enough," Vorak said, his voice dropping slightly. He wanted to strike again, but he was careful now. He had underestimated this human once, and it had shaken him. Luke adjusted his stance once more. His legs were slightly bent, his arms loose but ready. His breathing was calm, controlled. Anyone watching closely could see the rhythm of a man ready to strike with lethal precision. He was not preparing to defend himself only, he was preparing to end the fight if necessary. Suddenly, a group of alien spectators began to murmur among themselves. "Look at him," one whispered. "He is not afraid." Another added, "No human moves like that, he is different." Luke noticed their attention, but he ignored it. He was not fighting for pride or reputation. He was fighting because that was what humans did. They faced impossible odds and still stood. They fought not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Vorak's hand twitched again, a warning signal for the human to react, but Luke remained still. He was patient. He waited for the exact right moment, and everyone watching could feel the tension build, thick and heavy over the platform. Then, without warning, Vorak moved forward, aiming to push Luke down, to humiliate him. He thought it would be an easy task, but Luke did not flinch. In a fraction of a second, he shifted his weight, pivoted, and countered with a precision that made it look almost effortless. His movement was fluid, sharp, and deadly. Vorak's eyes widened in shock, realizing too late that he had underestimated this human. The crowd held its breath. Alien soldiers murmured among themselves, trying to understand what they had just seen. Humans, for the first time in many of their eyes, were no longer the weak species they had assumed. Luke's presence alone commanded respect, even fear. "You rely too much on brute strength," Luke said calmly, his hand resting briefly on his side. "You forget that true power is timing, focus, and resolve." Vorak did not reply. He took a step back, rubbing his jaw where Luke had moved just right to block and strike in one motion. His pride had been wounded. More importantly, he had learned a dangerous truth about humans. They were unpredictable. They were fast, clever, and capable of acts that even the most elite alien soldiers could not anticipate. The tension on the platform did not break. Everyone sensed that this was only the beginning. Luke had proven a point, but he had not yet acted fully. The fear in the eyes of many alien soldiers was subtle, but it was there. They had come to see humans as ordinary, but now they realized that humans were extraordinary in ways they could not measure with their technology or training. Luke glanced at the assembled crowd. He could see the Galactic Council members hovering nearby, observing silently. They were powerful and influential, but even they looked uneasy. They had witnessed many warriors, but none had the same calm, deadly precision as Luke. For the humans on the platform, the sight was inspiring. They straightened their posture, feeling pride swell in their chests. They had always known that their race was underestimated, but seeing Luke demonstrate such control and power in front of so many alien species reminded them of what humans were capable of. Even Vorak, proud and arrogant, could not hide the flicker of doubt that crossed his face. Luke Harper had made one simple action, a calm stance, a steady gaze, a refusal to flinch. looked more threatening than all of Vorak's words combined. The platform remained silent, the hum of energy from the surrounding ships the only sound. Luke adjusted his stance again, preparing himself. He was ready for whatever came next, because humans never backed down. Even against impossible odds, they faced danger with courage and clarity. And as the crowd watched, a thought spread through the alien soldiers and the human contingent alike. This human was not ordinary. This human was different. This human was dangerous. Luke Harper's moment had come. And no one on the platform, no matter how powerful, could ignore it. The platform felt heavier now, as if the air itself had thickened. Every eye was on Luke Harper and Vorak. The crowd of aliens whispered nervously, some stepping back, unsure of what might happen next. The tension was almost unbearable. Luke did not move his feet, did not make a sound. He simply watched, waiting. Vorak, on the other hand, flexed his massive hands and took a slow step forward, his eyes glowing faintly red. His pride demanded that he finish what he had started, that he show the humans their place in the galaxy. "You think your words mean anything?" Vorak growled, his voice vibrating across the platform. "You think your calm stance can save you? I will crush you, human, in front of all your people." Luke did not answer. His eyes never left Vorak. Every muscle in his body was ready, coiled like a spring. He could hear the faint hum of the ships around them, the distant vibrations of energy shields, even the subtle shifts in Vorak's weight. Every detail mattered. He did not need weapons. He did not need allies. He only needed his own speed, his own timing, and his own resolve. Vorak lunged forward suddenly, faster than anyone expected. He swung a massive fist toward Luke's chest, aiming to knock him off balance. The sound of wind cutting through the platform as his arm moved was deafening. The alien soldiers gasped. Many expected Luke to stumble, to block awkwardly, or even to retreat. But Luke did none of these. He moved in a single, fluid motion. His body twisted, his right arm rising just enough to deflect the blow. At the same time, his left leg pushed off the platform, propelling him forward with incredible speed. In less than a heartbeat, he was in front of Vorak. The alien barely had time to react. Luke's fist struck with perfect precision at the base of Vorak's skull. The impact was not wild or brutal, it was exact, surgical. Vorak staggered, his knees weakening. He swung his massive arms in desperation, but Luke was already moving, stepping to the side, avoiding the counterattack. The spectators were frozen. Alien soldiers whispered among themselves in disbelief. "He moves too fast, too precise, he is not human," one muttered, shaking its head. Humans nearby held their breath, unable to look away, their pride swelling. Luke Harper, their soldier, was showing the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. Vorak swung again, more aggressively this time, trying to overwhelm Luke with raw strength. But Luke anticipated each move before it fully came. He dodged left, then right, then ducked under a wide swing that would have shattered a lesser opponent's chest. His feet barely touched the metal surface as he shifted his weight, each movement controlled, each motion deadly. In the space of seconds, he moved closer again, striking with elbows, fists, and knees at points that made Vorak's arms flail and his balance falter. The alien's face twisted with shock and disbelief. "Impossible!" he roared. He had trained his entire life to fight warriors like humans, but no training could have prepared him for someone who combined speed, precision, and calm calculation in perfect harmony. Vorak's strikes were powerful, but Luke's movements were faster. Every counterattack found its mark. Every dodge created an opening. Then, in a moment that seemed frozen in time, Luke stepped forward. Vorak tried to swing one last desperate punch, but Luke caught his massive hand midair and twisted it with effortless strength. Simultaneously, Luke's other hand delivered a precise strike to the side of Vorak's head. The impact was brutal but clean, and Vorak collapsed to the platform, unconscious. The sound of his body hitting the metal echoed across the platform like thunder. Silence followed. The aliens stared in shock, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. The humans held their breath, some cheering softly, others simply staring, overwhelmed by the display of power. Luke stood a few feet away from the fallen alien, breathing evenly, his face calm, almost unreadable. Not a single bead of sweat showed on him. Not a single movement betrayed the effort it had taken. It had all looked easy, natural, inevitable. Some of the younger alien soldiers stepped back, fear overtaking their pride. They had come to see humans humiliated, but instead, they had seen one human dominate an elite alien warrior in seconds. Their assumptions about humanity were shattered. Others whispered to each other, their voices low. "We were wrong, humans are not weak, they are monsters." The Galactic Council members hovered closer, their expressions grave. They had seen countless warriors, some with technology that could level planets, some with strength that could crush moons, yet none had moved like Luke Harper. None had fought with such precision and calm. They shared a look, realizing that the humans had been underestimated for far too long. Luke turned his eyes to the crowd, scanning slowly. He did not gloat. He did not celebrate. He had no reason to. Humans had survived against impossible odds for thousands of years, and he was simply showing what a trained human soldier could do. That was all. Vorak groaned, waking slowly, his face twisted with pain and disbelief. He looked at Luke with a mixture of fear, anger, and confusion. How could one human?" he muttered, his voice trembling. Luke did not answer. He simply stepped back, giving the alien space, showing mercy without words. The alien soldiers whispered frantically, pointing at the fallen giant. Some stepped forward to help their comrade, but they were careful, keeping their distance. They had learned in seconds that humans were not to be underestimated. One wrong move could cost them their lives. Luke's team approached him slowly, placing hands on his shoulders, congratulating him quietly. They did not need to say much. Everyone there understood. Humans had just proven something fundamental. Strength was not only about size or technology. It was about skill, precision, and the calm willingness to face any threat. The platform began to buzz with activity again, though the tension lingered. The Galactic Council convened silently, their discussions muted but intense. They knew that the events they had just witnessed would change the balance of power in the galaxy. A single human had defeated one of their most elite soldiers without weapons or advanced armor. That fact alone would ripple across countless worlds. Luke's eyes scanned the horizon. Far away, the ships of the Galactic Alliance were still in formation, their lights blinking against the stars. He could feel the unspoken respect and fear from soldiers on the platform. Alien species had faced threats from dozens of worlds, yet none had shown the quiet, controlled lethality that humans possessed. He felt a surge of pride for his race, knowing that they were underestimated no more. A young human cadet, barely 19, approached Luke, his eyes wide with admiration. "Sir, that was incredible," he said, barely able to form words. "How did you?" Luke placed a hand on the cadet's shoulder, steadying him. "Stay focused," he said calmly. "Learn your timing, control your movements, and never underestimate yourself. That is how humans survive. That is how humans win." The cadet nodded, inspired but still overwhelmed. He could feel, deep in his bones, that humans had just taken a step into a new place in the galaxy, a place where they would be respected, feared, and never dismissed again. Vorak struggled to his feet, supported by two of his allies. He glared at Luke, his face a mixture of pride and rage. You are strong, human, stronger than I imagined," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "But this is only the beginning. You will see, strength is not enough." Luke looked at him calmly, the faintest edge of a smile forming on his lips. "Strength is nothing without control. Timing is nothing without resolve. And resolve, humans have in abundance." The alien soldier took a step back, realizing that words would not protect him from what humans could do. The whispers spread quickly across the platform. Aliens looked at humans differently now. Humans were no longer just another species. Humans were dangerous, capable of feats no one had predicted, able to change the course of any battle with skill and determination alone. Luke's team gathered around him, their pride swelling. For centuries, humans had been underestimated, laughed at, and considered weak in the eyes of advanced species. But here, in front of dozens of alien races, one human had rewritten that perception in seconds. The platform seemed to vibrate with energy, not from the ships or the lights, but from the realization spreading through every observer. Humanity had power that could not be measured by technology or brute force. Luke Harper had shown them that humans were unpredictable, unstoppable when pushed, and capable of precision and strength that no alien could match. The whispers turned into murmurs, then into cautious voices of respect. "We misjudged them," one alien admitted quietly to another. "They are not just strong, they are extraordinary." Luke did not celebrate. He knew that the fight was only a beginning. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long, and now their true nature was revealed. But he also knew that danger was still ahead, and that humans had to continue to fight with skill, patience, and resolve. As the crowd began to settle, Luke took a deep breath and straightened. His eyes scanned the stars, the platform, and the faces around him. The message was clear to all: underestimate humans at your own risk. And somewhere deep inside the heart of every soldier on the platform, that message began to sink in. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were warriors. And Luke Harper was proof of what humanity could achieve. The platform was quiet for a few long moments after the fight. Vorek's massive form lay on the ground, his breathing heavy and uneven. Even as he struggled to rise, he could not hide the fear in his eyes. Around him, the alien soldiers whispered frantically, some glancing at each other with disbelief, others shaking their heads. They had expected a display of dominance, an easy victory over the human, and instead, they had witnessed something that challenged everything they thought they knew. Luke Harper stood a few feet away from the fallen alien, calm and steady. His uniform was slightly scuffed, but he looked as composed as ever. His team gathered around him quietly, giving him space, yet their eyes were full of pride. They had trained for battles like this, but seeing Luke move with such precision and speed, even they were amazed. A few of them exchanged glances, silently acknowledging that humans had just stepped into a new era of respect among the galaxy's warriors. The Galactic Council, hovering above the platform, remained silent, their expressions unreadable. They had seen warriors from countless worlds, trained in arts that required years of preparation and advanced technology. Yet none had moved with the control and lethal calm that Luke had displayed. Their whispers were hushed, but the meaning was clear. Humans could no longer be underestimated. The younger alien soldiers, still in shock, began to murmur. How could one human defeat Vorek so easily?" one asked, his voice trembling. "He was the strongest of our generation," another added. They exchanged worried glances, realizing that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in a single moment. Among the humans, a quiet cheer began to rise. It was not loud, but it carried weight. They did not need to shout to be heard. The sight of Luke Harper standing victorious, unshaken, had reminded them of the truth they had always known. Humans were capable of feats that no one expected. They had survived against impossible odds before, and now the galaxy had seen proof. Vorek groaned, finally managing to sit up with the help of his allies. His massive body trembled, a mix of pain and rage showing in his expression. He looked at Luke, trying to hide his fear behind a mask of pride. "You, human, you are strong," he said, his voice low and strained. "But this is only the beginning. Others will come, and strength alone will not be enough to protect you." Luke did not respond immediately. He simply observed Vorak, noting the subtle shifts in his posture, the tension in his muscles, the unsteady balance. Luke had no reason to boast. He had demonstrated what humans could do, and the aliens had seen it clearly. That was enough. The alien soldiers began to regroup around their leader, trying to regain their composure. They exchanged quick whispers, their faces showing a mix of fear, curiosity, and a growing respect for the human before them. Some of the older, more experienced soldiers shook their heads, muttering under their breath about how the humans had been underestimated for too long. The Galactic Council members finally spoke, their voices calm but carrying authority. "We have underestimated humans for centuries," one said. "Their ability to adapt, to strike with precision, and to remain calm under pressure is unlike anything we have seen. They are not weak. They are not ordinary. We must reconsider how we approach them in the future." The word spread quickly among the other alien soldiers. Whispers turned into discussions, and discussions into cautious acknowledgement. Humans were no longer just another species in the galaxy. They were something different, something dangerous in ways that technology alone could not measure. Luke's team approached him quietly, placing hands on his shoulders and offering small nods of approval. They did not need to speak. The pride in their eyes was clear. For centuries, humans had been underestimated, laughed at, and dismissed. But here, in front of multiple alien species, one human had rewritten the perception of his entire race. The younger human cadets, still watching in awe, could hardly believe what they had seen. "Sir, that was unbelievable," one said, his voice shaking slightly. "No one could have expected that." Luke nodded slightly, his face calm. "It was not about expectation," he said softly. "It was about preparation, focus, and resolve. That is what humans rely on. That is what humans survive with. Never forget that." The cadets listened intently, understanding that the lesson was more than just combat. It was about mindset, control, and the courage to face impossible odds. They realized in that moment that humans had a strength beyond what weapons or numbers could provide. Meanwhile, Vorak's allies helped him to his feet. His massive frame trembled with effort, but he managed to straighten himself, trying to hide the fear that had taken hold. He glanced at Luke again, a mix of respect and rage in his eyes. You have proven yourself today," he said, his voice low and strained. "But there will be others. You cannot win against everyone." Luke met his gaze calmly. "Perhaps not," he said. "But humans will always find a way. That is what makes us dangerous." The alien soldiers around Vorak began to murmur, some nodding slightly, others still uneasy. The message was clear. Humans could not be underestimated. Their ability to adapt, to fight with precision, and to remain calm under extreme pressure was something no alien species had fully understood until now. The platform began to buzz with activity as the Galactic Council members moved closer. They spoke quietly among themselves, discussing the implications of what had just occurred. Humans had shown the galaxy that they were more than survivors. They were warriors, capable of feats that even elite alien soldiers could not predict. Luke's team gathered around him, forming a protective circle as he surveyed the crowd. His eyes scanned the alien soldiers, the Galactic Council members, and the human cadets. Everyone was watching, and everyone had learned something important. Humans were not to be taken lightly. A few of the alien soldiers approached cautiously, curious but respectful. "You, human, you fight differently than any warrior I have seen," one said, his voice low. "There is a control, a precision it is unlike anything in our training." Luke nodded slightly. "Humans rely on focus, timing, and resolve. That is how we survive. That is how we win." The alien nodded slowly, taking in the words. He glanced at his companions, who were still whispering nervously. The message was clear. Humans were unpredictable, dangerous, and capable of feats that defied expectation. The younger human cadets watched intently, absorbing every detail. They realized that Luke's victory was more than just a fight. It was a lesson in human strength, resilience, and the power of calm determination. They felt pride swelling in their chests, knowing that they belonged to a species capable of such extraordinary skill. Vorak, still standing with the help of his allies, looked around the platform. His pride had been wounded, but he also recognized the truth. Humans were not weak. They were not ordinary. They were dangerous, and Luke Harper had proven it in front of the entire galaxy. The Galactic Council members spoke again, their voices carrying authority. "This display changes everything," one said. "Humans must be treated with caution, respect, and consideration. They are not to be underestimated in any future conflicts." The word spread quickly among the alien soldiers. Whispers turned into discussions, and discussions into cautious acknowledgement. The perception of humans had shifted in seconds, and the realization was profound. Humans were no longer just another species in the galaxy. They were something different, something extraordinary, something to be respected and feared. Luke's team gathered around him once more, offering quiet nods of approval. The pride in their eyes was evident, but Luke remained calm. He knew that this was only the beginning. Humans had shown the galaxy what they were capable of, but there would be more challenges ahead. The lesson had been delivered, and it was clear. Humanity's reputation had changed forever. The younger human cadets, inspired by what they had witnessed, began to whisper among themselves. "We can do this too," one said softly. "We can fight like that someday." Luke smiled faintly. "Focus, practice, and resolve," he said. "That is all you need. And never forget, humans have something others do not. We survive, we adapt, and we overcome. That is what makes us dangerous." The cadets nodded, absorbing the lesson. They knew that they had witnessed history, that they had seen the moment when humans proved their strength to the galaxy. It was a moment that would be remembered for generations, a turning point that would change the way other species viewed humanity forever. Vorak and his allies moved to the edge of the platform, still wary but no longer aggressive. They had learned a hard lesson. Humans were not to be underestimated. Even the strongest alien soldiers could fall in seconds if they faced the right human with skill, focus, and resolve. The platform buzzed with activity as the Galactic Council members moved among the observers. They spoke quietly, sharing their thoughts and observations. Humans had shown them something important. Strength alone was not enough. Skill, precision, and calm determination were just as important, and humans had these qualities in abundance. Luke Harper looked out across the platform, his eyes calm and steady. The lesson had been delivered. The message was clear to all who had witnessed it. Humans were dangerous, capable, and not to be underestimated. And somewhere deep in the hearts of the alien soldiers and observers, the realization began to settle. Humanity had changed the balance of power in the galaxy, and the echoes of this moment would be felt for a long time. The platform was alive with whispers, murmurs, and cautious conversations. Soldiers and observers from dozens of worlds were still trying to process what they had witnessed. Luke Harper's calm, precise, and deadly display had not just defeated Vorak. It had sent a shockwave through every mind present. Humans were no longer just another species in the galaxy. They were something else, something dangerous, disciplined, and unpredictable. Luke's team gathered around him, forming a close circle. He glanced at each of them, his face calm and unreadable, but his eyes reflected quiet pride. They had all trained for years, but no one had expected to see their captain move like he had today. His performance was more than skill. It was a statement. Humanity had a new voice in the galaxy, and Luke Harper had spoken loudly. "Sir, what now?" asked one of the cadets, barely able to control his excitement. His eyes shone with awe and inspiration. Do we keep fighting?" Luke shook his head slightly. "No," he said. "Today was not about fighting. It was about showing who we are. Humans survive. Humans adapt. And when necessary, humans strike with precision. That is how we win. Remember that. The cadet nodded, understanding that the lesson was bigger than the fight itself. It was about mindset, focus, and the quiet strength that humans carried with them, even when outnumbered or underestimated. Across the platform, the alien soldiers and the Galactic Council members exchanged looks of disbelief and growing respect. Some of the younger aliens whispered among themselves. "Humans are not weak," one said. "We thought they were primitive. We thought they relied only on numbers and weapons. But what we saw, that was skill, focus, and control. That was power." Others nodded, less willing to speak, but the message was clear. Humans were a force to be reckoned with. Their reputation, once humble and often dismissed, had changed forever. The whispers began to grow louder, spreading across the platform like wildfire. Stories of Luke Harper's calm, deadly precision would travel faster than any ship. They would be told on distant planets, in training halls, and in strategy meetings. Humans had made a statement that could not be ignored. Vorak, still recovering from the defeat, watched silently. His pride had been deeply wounded, but he could not deny the truth. Humans were stronger, faster, and smarter than he had believed. He had underestimated them, and he would not make that mistake again. Even as he spoke quietly to his allies, his words carried a grudging respect. "We misjudged them," he said. "Do not make the same mistake twice. Humans are dangerous, and one man just proved it." The Galactic Council convened in a quiet circle, their discussion measured but urgent. They had observed Luke Harper, and they knew that the human race could no longer be treated lightly. Discussions of treaties, trade, and alliances suddenly seemed different. Humans were not just another participant in galactic affairs. They were a factor that could not be ignored. One council member, an elder with skin like polished copper, spoke quietly. "We have underestimated Earth and its people for too long. We must reconsider how we approach them in every matter. A single soldier has shown more than any demonstration of technology or weaponry we have ever witnessed. Humans are exceptional." His words were repeated in whispers among the other council members. The realization spread like fire. Humans were no longer spectators in galactic politics. They were players, and their skills could not be measured by traditional means. Luke Harper had proven that humans had a dangerous combination of skill, resolve, and calmness that no alien species could fully predict. The human soldiers gathered in a small group nearby, watching as the aliens processed the events. Some aliens approached them cautiously, curious to study the humans up close. Luke noticed their attention but said nothing. He knew that today was not about intimidation or fear, it was about respect. And respect had been earned. A young human cadet stepped forward, his voice trembling slightly. "Sir, will they respect us now?" Luke looked at him, calm but firm. "They will respect humans now," he said. "Not because we demand it, but because they have no choice. What they saw today is proof that humans survive, adapt, and overcome. That is who we are. That is what makes us dangerous." The cadet nodded, absorbing the lesson. He understood that human strength was not just about weapons or size, but about determination, focus, and the willingness to act decisively when the moment required it. In the crowd, alien whispers began to grow. Soldiers discussed Luke's moves, the way he had anticipated Vorak's attacks, and the precision of his strikes. Some shook their heads in disbelief, others nodded in admiration. Across the platform, the respect for humans began to solidify. The humans had stepped into a new place in the galaxy, a place that demanded attention and caution. Even Vorak's allies could not hide their growing respect. They had witnessed the defeat of one of their strongest warriors by a single human. Their assumptions about strength, skill, and power had been challenged in seconds. They moved cautiously, their eyes never leaving Luke. The lessons had been learned. Humans were dangerous, and any future encounter would be approached with care. Luke Harper turned toward the edge of the platform, scanning the vastness of space. The distant stars, the glowing ships, and the nebula beyond all seemed to shimmer differently now. Humanity's place in the galaxy had changed. They were no longer just a species to be observed, ignored, or underestimated. They were players capable of influencing events with skill and resolve alone. The young cadets gathered around Luke, their eyes wide with excitement and awe. "Sir, what happens next?" one asked. Luke smiled faintly. "Next, we continue to train, to prepare, and to prove ourselves," he said. "Humanity has shown its strength today, but there is more to come. The galaxy will watch us, and we must always be ready. Remember this moment and let it guide you. Strength, focus, resolve, those are the tools that will carry humanity forward." The cadets nodded, inspired. They understood that today had changed everything. Luke Harper had not just defeated an alien warrior, he had shown the galaxy what humans were capable of. They would carry this lesson with them, and in the years to come, humans would continue to surprise, challenge, and dominate in ways that other species could not predict. Across the platform, whispers of Luke Harper's actions began to spread beyond the immediate crowd. Reports would reach distant planets, military academies, and council chambers. The story of a single human defeating one of the galaxy's elite soldiers in seconds would become legend. Humans had stepped into a new era, and the echoes of that day would resonate for generations. Vorak, finally regaining his composure, looked at Luke one last time. His expression was complex, a mixture of respect, fear, and reluctant admiration. "You have changed everything today, human," he said. "Do not forget, we will watch. And next time we will not underestimate you." Luke met his gaze calmly. "Next time," he said softly, "humans will be ready. We always are." The alien soldiers and the Galactic Council members around them absorbed the words. Luke Harper had spoken not just for himself, but for all of humanity. The message was clear. Humans were not ordinary. They were unpredictable, dangerous, and capable of feats that no one had anticipated. The galaxy had witnessed it firsthand, and the perception of Earth's people would never be the same again. As the crowd began to disperse, the human soldiers walked together, their pride quiet but strong. They had faced a challenge that many thought impossible and had proven themselves. Luke Harper led them, calm and steady, a living example of human potential. The young cadets followed closely, their minds full of determination and inspiration. They had seen the future of humanity in action, and they understood what it would take to survive, thrive, and dominate in the galaxy. The lessons of focus, precision, and resolve would guide them for years to come. Luke paused for a moment, looking out at the stars. The vastness of space stretched endlessly before him, filled with countless worlds, unknown civilizations, and future battles. Humanity had taken its first major step into this wider universe, and the galaxy had no choice but to recognize their presence. He turned back to his team, his expression calm but firm. "Today was more than a fight," he said. "It was a statement. The galaxy has seen what humans are capable of. They will remember it, and we will never be underestimated again." The team nodded, understanding the weight of his words. They had witnessed history, and they knew that humanity's reputation had changed forever. Luke Harper had led the way, proving that humans were more than survivors. They were warriors, capable of facing any challenge and emerging victorious. As they left the platform together, the whispers and murmurs of the alien soldiers continued. Across the galaxy, stories of the human soldier who had crushed Vorak in seconds would spread. Respect, fear, and admiration for humanity would grow. Humans had stepped into a new era, and their place in the galaxy had been firmly established. Luke Harper's calm, precise, and deadly demonstration had not just won a fight. It had rewritten the rules, changed perceptions, and announced to the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. The stars shone brightly above them, and as Luke led his team forward, the galaxy knew one undeniable truth. Humans were powerful, humans were dangerous, and humans had arrived.